Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the secrets behind one of the most important books on persuasion ever written, Robert Cialdini's Influence. We're going to pull back the curtain on the hidden psychological switches that control our decisions, often without us even realizing it. Let's get right into it.
So let's kick things off with a story that it doesn't make any sense on the surface. A friend of Cialdini's was having a really hard time selling some turquoise jewelry. She tried everything. So finally, right before a trip, she leaves a note for her employee. Everything in this case, price times 1/2. But the handwriting was messy, and the saleswoman read it as price times 2. She doubled the price of everything. And when the owner got back, the entire collection was sold out. How on earth is that possible? And that right there, that's our first big idea. A concept Cialdini calls click-whir. Just think of it like a pre-programmed tape in our brains. I mean, the world is way too complex to analyze every single decision, so we use mental shortcuts. For those jewelry customers, the shortcut was simple. Expensive equals good. The super high price tag was the click that activated the tape, and the automatic decision to buy, that was the whir. Now, these shortcuts usually help us out, but as we're about to see, they can also be used to hack our brains.
All right, let's get into our first weapon of influence, the rule of reciprocity. This is easily one of the most powerful social rules there is, and it guides our behavior in ways we just don't even notice most of the time. This rule it's woven into the very fabric of being human. It's that deep feeling that we have to repay in kind whatever someone else gives us. It's so deeply programmed that Cialdini tells this incredible story from World War I. A German soldier had the job of capturing enemy soldiers in the trenches. He's on a mission, he corners a lone enemy soldier, but right before he can capture him, the soldier offers him a piece of bread. And just like that, the German soldier couldn't do it. He turned around and left. That unsolicited gift was so powerful, it literally saved a man's life.
Now, here's where it gets a little sneaky. This rule can be manipulated, and the rejection then retreat tactic is a masterclass in how to do it. Here's how it works. First, you make a huge, totally unreasonable request, one you know is going to be shot down. Then you retreat to a much smaller request, which, by the way, is the one you wanted all along. Now, the other person sees your retreat as a concession, and they feel this immense pressure to reciprocate with a concession of their own by saying yes. And you want to see just how powerful that feeling is? Check this out. This quote is from one of the men who greenlit the infamous Watergate break-in. G. Gordon Liddy first came to them with this insane $1 million plan, complete with kidnapping plots and yachts. Of course, they rejected it. So he came back with a $500,000 plan, rejected again. Finally, he proposed a bare-bones $250,000 plan. As you can see from the quote, after Liddy had made 2 huge concessions, they felt like they just had to give him something. And that something turned into one of the biggest political disasters in American history. All right, moving on. Let's talk about the consistency trap. This is all about our powerful, almost obsessive desire to be and to appear consistent with what we've already said or done. It's a drive that can make us do some pretty strange things. So why are we like this? Well, being consistent is a shortcut. It makes us seem rational and trustworthy, and it saves us from having to constantly rethink all our choices. Cialdini brings up this amazing study of people betting at a horse track. They found that bettors become way more confident that their horse will win after they've placed the bet. It's like once that commitment is made, their brain just goes into overdrive to convince them it was the right call. And man, some companies have gotten really good at using this against us. They've turned it into a kind of devious art form. Think about this. Before Christmas, a toy company will flood the airwaves with ads for the new must-have toy. Parents see it, they promise it to their kids, but then the company deliberately understocks the stores so it's impossible to find before Christmas. Then, come January, the ads are back. And what happens? Parents, who feel bound by that promise they made, flock back to the stores to finally buy the toy. They have to fulfill their commitment. Okay, this next example is just wild. It shows how far this consistency thing can go. Cialdini talks about the study of a doomsday cult in Chicago. They believed a UFO was coming to rescue them before a giant flood destroyed the world. So they quit their jobs, they gave away all their money, all their possessions. And then the day came and nothing happened. No UFO, no flood. But they didn't fall apart. After a bit of confusion, they did the exact opposite of what you'd think. Before, they'd been super secretive. Now they were calling newspapers and trying to recruit new members. Why? Because their commitment was so huge, the only way to justify it was to convince more people they were right. It was the only way to make their belief feel true again. Okay, weapon number 3, social proof. This is a simple idea. We figure out what's correct by looking at what everyone else is doing. We basically look to the crowd to tell us how to act. This quote just nails it, right? I mean, think about laugh tracks on sitcoms. They're literally telling us when something is funny. Or when bartenders put a few of their own dollars in the tip jar at the beginning of the night to make it seem like tipping is the norm. We're constantly looking for these social cues. But this reliance on the crowd can have a really dark side. Back in 1964, this number was everywhere, and it stood for something terrifying that was happening in our society. So, for over half an hour, a woman named Catherine Kitty Genovese was attacked and murdered in New York City. Her screams for help were heard by dozens of her neighbors. 38 people, 38, watched parts of the attack from their windows, and not a single person called the police until it was way too late. At the time, the story was all about how we were becoming this cold, uncaring society, but the real reason was something else entirely. So here's the crazy part. It wasn't that these 38 people were monsters. They were actually victims of social proof. In a confusing, uncertain situation, our first instinct is to look around and see how other people are reacting. But here's the trap. Everybody else is doing the exact same thing. So when everyone looks out their window and sees that nobody else is doing anything, the collective message becomes, this must not be an emergency. Personal responsibility just dissolves into the crowd and nobody acts. It creates this chilling paradox. In an emergency, you might actually be safer with just one bystander than with 38. Okay, so we've seen how these powerful psychological rules, reciprocity, consistency, social proof, can be used to hijack our brains. The big question is, what do we do about it? How do we build a defense? How do we learn to just say no? Cialdini gives us a few tools for our defense kit. First, he says, listen to your gut. You know that tight feeling in your stomach when you're being pushed into a deal you don't want? That's your body telling you a compliance tactic is being used. Next, you gotta redefine the situation. That free sample isn't a gift, it's a sales tool meant to make you feel obligated. Once you see it for what it is, the obligation just evaporates. You also have to question the crowd. Is their social proof real, or is it just a laugh track? And finally, to break out of that consistency trap, you have to ask yourself what Cialdini calls the crucial question. Knowing what I know right now, would I still make the same choice? It's like a reset button that snaps you out of autopilot. And that really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? The point isn't to get rid of these click-whir responses. We can't. We actually need them to get through the day. The real key is to get better at recognizing when they're being triggered by someone who's trying to manipulate us. By understanding these weapons of influence, we can spot them out in the real world, turn off the autopilot, and make a conscious choice. That's how we make sure these powerful shortcuts are working for us and not against us.